You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. I'm your host, Jennings Smith. Excited to be here with you today. My dad used to say, those are PLUs. I was like, Dad, what is a PLU? And he would say, well, a PLU is people like us. And what he meant by people like us was, they had similar values. Maybe they were family oriented. They were hard workers. They had a good job. They went to church with us. They were in our community, et cetera, et cetera. They were people like us. And we kind of gravitate towards that. And where does that come from, right? Where does people like us come from? Where does our identity come from? We're going to be talking about identity and what our standards are and how that affects the way we approach everything in life. So I think of it as when you're a child, you're kind of like a blank painting, right? There's nothing there. And those brush strokes get filled in by, your parents. In large part, it gets filled in by experiences, coaches, teachers, brothers and sisters, friends, and they can be for the good or for the bad. So if you grow up like I did, and I'll say just pretty much, middle class, maybe not lower middle class, but middle class, where, decent sized house, power was never getting turned off. My parents had 2 cars and we would go out to eat maybe once a quarter, So money was tight, but we definitely didn't lack for anything and had a very stable childhood, I would say, with a 2-parent home. And so this kind of brought some brushstrokes into my life of what my identity was. However, there were some other things that caused some, I don't want to say negative brushstrokes, but they formed me where I was homeschooled. I was homeschooled, and in the late 80s and 90s, like that wasn't cool. That wasn't accepted. And so I struggled with some inferiority there, thought, oh, well, maybe I'm, I don't fit in. I don't have as many friends as the people in my neighborhood that are going to public school. I'm different. Why am I different? And so that was something that, for good or bad, it just sort of affected my identity. And so you may have like a coach who was like, you're really good at pitching, you have natural talent in baseball. So that kind of forms your identity around, I'm a good baseball player. Or you may have had, hey, you have ADD or you have ADHD. You're not a good test taker. You're not a good student. You can't pay attention. You can't sit still. You can't focus. And those things start to become, well, my expectation, my standard is I can't listen. I can't focus. I can't sit still. And that's just a way that I am. And there's nothing I can do about it. So we have to really be careful about, well, we can't help what happened to us as a child, right? We can't help what people said. And as a child, it's really hard to even understand what's going on and how these worldviews are being shaped and molded, because you really are not aware of much more than, when am I going to go out and play and can I get some candy? But I like to think of a good analogy as a thermostat. Right. So in the thermostat, whatever your exterior condition is, let's say it's freezing cold outside, 30 degrees outside. Well, in the house, it's nice and toasty at 70 degrees. You got the thermostat turned up, and the thermostat's able to keep the interior conditions, the identity of the home at 70 degrees. Let's say it's the middle of summer here in Charleston and it's 99 degrees. It's super, super hot outside. Well, it doesn't matter if that thermostat is adjusted to 70 degrees. If your air conditioner is working, then you're going to be at 70 degrees inside of your house. And that's what I'm talking about, is that thermostat, that degrees is set largely as a child and shaped by our experiences and shaped by the things that people tell us and shaped by the things that we believe. And we know what we know, right? This is why poverty cycles are so hard to break. This is why most people that grow up middle class end up becoming middle class, because that's where their thermostat has been set. So I want to give a little bit of an analogy. Let's say that your thermostat is set at 20 degrees. 20 degrees. You're not focused on your health. You're not focused on your food. You're homeless. You don't have a home. You probably are struggling with some mental conditions, maybe even drugs, alcohol, whatever. And your standard is, I need to get $5-10 today so that I can get something to eat and survive, live another day. That's your standard of living. The standard of living is you're okay with begging for food, begging for money, living under a bridge. You're not thinking about building a family, building a career, health goals, whatever. You're just trying to make it through the day, right? Tough position to be in, but that's where that thermostat is set. That's the standard that has been accepted into that life. Then you want to talk about, let's say we bump the thermostat up to 50 degrees. This is somebody, maybe they're scraping by. They've been in a job for a long time, really with no upward mobility. Maybe they know a skill. Maybe they live in an apartment and they're pretty much living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck and barely at that. Lots of financial stresses and woes. Health still is not really a priority, but they're not worried about getting food on the table. They've got food to eat. They've got a roof over their head, but that's about it. Then you move that thermostat up to 75. I would consider this middle class America, where a lot of middle class America is living paycheck to paycheck. They have very little in savings, but they have a little bit better standard of living. They got a couple cars, they got a house, they go on a vacation a year maybe, and got a little bit of money in the bank, but not much, maybe a few $1,000s, and not super focused on health, not super focused on relationships, not super focused on upward mobility. They just want to get a little bit more dollars per hour. They need to get that 25-50 cent raise, and they are just cruising, right? They're on cruise control. They're comfortable, not too comfortable, but they're not in pain, because if they dropped below that threshold, right? Imagine if they were going to get foreclosed on or they lost their job. They're not just going to go live under the bridge. They're going to be like, I got to get this thermostat back up to 75 degrees. Like, I got to go find another job. I got to go rent a house, and my wife and kids are not going to accept me living in the 1,000 square foot 1-bedroom apartment. Like, I got to go find a 3-bedroom house to live in. That's my standard. And then you've got people in the 95 to 100 range. So these are people that, yes, I think financially it's showing up, but not always, because life is a lot more than just money and financial success. And we're going to talk about that a little bit too. But they're winning and growing and achieving in multiple aspects of their life. So they're working on their relationship with their marriage, with their children. They're working on themselves. They're working on their health. They're working on working out, eating better. They're uncovering better opportunities in the businesses that they're working on for their employees, for them. They're figuring out how to buy more of their time back, get more of their life back. They're focused on the spiritual aspect of their lives. They're focused on giving back. Who can they help? Who's God put in their life to make an impact on? Maybe monetarily, and also by pouring into their lives and skills. And so this is where I want to live. This is where I want to elevate my standards to be. But the difficult thing is sometimes things happen in our life that push us up, right? Maybe we're 75 degrees. I know I was 75 degrees for a long time, and things would come into my life and then it would be almost too good, right? And I would regulate back down, right? I would cool it off because things were getting too hot, too good, too much opportunity, and I needed to just chill out because I wasn't a 95-degree person. Even though I say I want that, I want more money, I want more opportunity, I want better relationships, I want better health, I want to live a more impactful life. When that would start to happen, then I would pull back through a series of self-sabotage, right? I mean, that's what it is. Because your identity regulates your self-worth. Your identity regulates where you end up, not these external things that are happening to you. So let me break it down as an example, as a story. So in my construction company, we would go through these cycles, right? Where we would build homes and renovate bathrooms and kitchens, and we would get really, really busy. We would sign a lot of deals. Things would go really well. It was almost like I couldn't miss. I mean, I'm closing deal after deal after deal. And then I would get stressed out and the quality of the work would go down because we've got too much going on. We don't have enough personnel. We don't have enough processes. We don't have enough systems. We don't have enough people. And one, it's a difficult business to scale. But two, I would not dig into those problems, right? I would not figure out, well, what do I need to do? Who do I need to hire? How can I change this? How can I reorient this? Who do I need to talk to help me figure this out? Who's already been there? And so I would regulate it back down. I would start turning away work, right? I would start raising my prices to insane prices so that we wouldn't get the job. I would start performing poorly and taking forever to get stuff done because we just had too much on our plate. And so I would self-sabotage back to, and then the work would slow down. And then the work would slow down into like the 65-degree range. And I'm freaking out. I got to get more work. And now I'm dedicated. I'm pushing, I'm hustling, and I'm signing work, and I'm pushing it up above 75. And now I'm getting too busy again. And I can't handle it, and I can't manage it, and I'm not changing into these processes. And that's what I'm talking about is I kept regulating my construction company to a mediocre performing company, right? With mediocre profits. However, I was living to the standards that I had been raised with, right? I had a nice house. I had a wife, kid, 2 cars, company, making 6 figures. But that was really all I could hope for and want, because to get more resources, get more opportunity, I was going to have to raise that thermostat, elevate those standards. We see this with people that lose weight. There's a weight loss program that my wife did, E2M, and I did it with her as well a couple times. And it's like an 8-week intensive program that you got to eat the special food and do workouts once a day and blah, blah, blah. And it's hard, but it's effective. And you see people that lose the weight, myself included, and then I would go right back to it. Maybe you know somebody like this. Maybe this is you, where you've seen someone lose 20 pounds and then they gain it right back because their identity, where they're comfortable, is at that certain weight, right? To be 20 pounds overweight, to be 50 pounds overweight. Like that's where they're comfortable. That's where their identity lives. And to live as a thin person or a fit person and have those habits and style and lifestyle that you have to maintain that, it just wasn't their identity, right? Wasn't their habit. And so that thermostat, that internal thermostat, well, I can't do this round. Well, it's just one more cheeseburger. Well, I'm just going to skip this workout. And you self-sabotage to move right back to that 75-degree thermostat or 50-degree thermostat or wherever you're at, where you're comfortable. So these external forces are used as excuses often. Oh, I threw my back out, and so I can't work out. For me, that was a huge problem. I would work out sporadically, and then I would throw my shoulder out, I'd get injured, and I'd quit. And so the only way that I could conquer that was to change that identity of my identity is somebody that is in shape. My identity is somebody that does work out, that does care about their health. That wasn't my identity for a long, long time. I mean, I was using tobacco, occasionally smoking. I was a construction worker, eating like crap, definitely didn't work out. And so it was an identity shift. And when that identity shifted, did I still get injured? Yes. Did I still get sore? Yes. I had problems with my elbow. I had problems with my shoulder, but I kept at it with the trainer. I got advice, I got input, and got through it, right? So I have a mentoring program, the Deal Room, which is mentoring for people that want to buy multifamily property. And there are people in the mentoring group that they bump up against an external problem. And the thing is we all bump up against these external problems. I wish that life was easier and simpler, but it isn't. And if you're going to do things, anything, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be brick walls that you got to climb over or break through or dig under or whatever. And I was talking to this person, and they had a plan around emailing their list and getting the stuff out. And there was a setback where the software wasn't working right or whatever. They couldn't get the thing to work out, and so they hadn't gotten it done. And the pushback that I gave this person was, hey, well, that can't stop you, right? If that little problem stops you, then you're never going to get results. And it's the same thing. Like, you call a few brokers and they hang up on you and it doesn't work out, you're never going to build relationships with brokers. If you try to close a deal and the deal doesn't close, you don't raise enough money, you don't get the loan, it falls apart. The due diligence period where you're looking into the property, it's not what you thought the deal was, and the deal fails. If you quit right there, you're never going to elevate that standard, raise that thermostat. And it's easy to say, well, it's because of the external circumstance. It's because the email system broke. It's because the brokers were rude to me. It's because there wasn't any good deals. It's because I couldn't raise the money, or the investors wouldn't invest with me. Or it's because it wasn't, there was too much deferred maintenance and the deal fell apart and they wouldn't reduce the price. All these external forces. And trust me, there will always be external forces conspiring to stop you. And when you think that that's the reason why you don't have the level of success or monetary gain or relationships or health or whatever that you want, like it's an injury, it's this, it's that, there's always a reason, and they may be valid, but they're not going to get you results. So my thought here is, when you realize it's not the events conspiring against me, it's me, right? It's because my internal thermostat is set at this level. When I get challenged, when it gets hard, when it gets tough, my internal thermostat takes over, right? And it lowers it down. So see, that I told you that wasn't going to work. See, you're really just not a 95-degree person. You're not a 100-degree person. You're really more like a 75. And we told you this wasn't going to work. And see how bad this feels? See how much this hurts to put yourself out there? See how embarrassed you are? Like, don't do this, dude. Just go back to your job. Go back to whatever you're doing. Be mediocre. Be happy with the 100 grand you're making. Be happy with the 50 grand you're making. Be happy with the crappy relationships that you have. Be happy that you're overweight. Be happy that you're working 60 hours a week. Be happy that you're stressed out all the time, because there's nothing better. It's all just lies beyond that. You can't get there anyways. That's just not who you are. This is your identity. And that's why it's so difficult to break it. And that's why we always drift back to where identity is. Okay, so enough doom and gloom. How do we turn up? How do we turn up that identity? How do we turn up that thermostat? How do we change that so that we stop self-sabotaging, so that we can break out of this cycle, this oscillation between we're moving up a little bit above our standard and we pull back down. We move a little bit below our standard and we pull back up, and we just oscillate right there. How do we break into the next stratosphere, the next level? Well, I can think of 3 succinct ways. I don't want to keep it simple, actionable, so that you can take action on this today. Number 1, let's talk about associations. Associations are, the people that you're hanging around with. If you're with a bunch of 50-degree people, or 20, when you've got the drug addict or the convicted felon coming out of prison, and I'm talking in extremes here, but the first thing that they tell those people is stop your associations. You can't go back and hang out with those same people who are getting high every weekend, who are breaking into cars and houses and getting in trouble. If you want to change your life, you've got to change your associations. Evil associations corrupt good morals. That's an old maxim from back in the day when I was a kid. And it's true. So, 1, you may need to cut off some associations that you have. You may need to cut off some people that are not inspiring you. And every idea you have, they've got a reason as to why it won't work. And they've never tried anything, and the results speak clearly. So those are some associations that you maybe need to decrease or cut off completely. And then increasing the associations that are going to push you, that are going to drive you, right? Because we as human beings, the fact that we can see somebody else did it is extremely important. You think about Roger Bannister with the 4-minute mile. No one had ever run a 4-minute mile. And once he ran it, other people ran it. I think like 5 or 6 other people ran it that year. Nobody had ever done it in the history of time. He runs a 4-minute mile, breaks that record. All of a sudden, hey, well, if he can do it, I can do it. He's no faster than me. I can make this happen. Boom. They make it happen. We see this in the stock market, right? Where on a bull market, like the price goes up, 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 and then the company pulls back and retraces. But then it's a lot easier for that company to reach that same stock price as it was before, because now it's like, oh, well, we know it can go that high. It's already gone that high. Why can't it go? And that's that belief. And so when you're around people that have done it, and it's one thing to hear them on the radio, to see them on TV, whatever, but when you actually have a relationship with them and you see how they're working and you see that they're just another guy, another girl, just putting in the work, steady, consistent habits, they're not like they're a professional athlete with just natural born talent that you never could have. It's more so that they're just further ahead than you. Maybe they're further down the road than you, or maybe they've put in a little bit more work than you, but you can do that. And that is extremely, extremely helpful to be around these people. And also, if they've already gone through what you're going through, they can look back and say, this is what you should do in this situation. And so increasing those positive associations was a massive breakthrough for me. You know, I started with construction. A group approached me, Alaire, who had systems, processes, the ability to manage my company way better, be more profitable, grow it, scale it, not have to keep going, oh, we're too busy. Now we don't have enough work. Now we're too busy. Now we don't have enough work. We're giving away the farm. We don't have good processes. We don't have good trainings. We don't have good hiring practices. All that stuff, they helped me solve that. And when I saw that it wasn't rocket science, it was just like, I just got to follow these processes, it worked, you know, and eventually I scaled the business and got out of the business, sold it, which was cool because I wasn't passionate about construction anymore. But that was a start with increasing my associations, getting around bigger thinkers versus being in my own little bubble. When I was in construction, I mean, I had no mentors. I had nobody teaching me. I started straight from college, just hammering a pickup truck. You know, I didn't have associations that were pulling me up into the stratosphere. And so my expectation, my standard was, hey, if I'm making a living, if I'm paying my bills and I'm putting a little bit of money in the bank every month, then I'm good. I'm good. And I started to increase those associations. And then that moved into real estate, where I saw people who were young guys, ambitious guys, hardworking guys who were buying a lot of real estate, figuring it out, creative strategies, partnering with people, raising money, partnering with loan sponsors to get these big apartment complexes done. And I saw a guy, you know, closing thousands of units in just a couple of years, and went and met him, went to his conference, went and saw him, learned how he was doing it, met other people there, and started on my own journey. But seeing that he could do that and the success that he'd had was super important to increase that association. I still had to do the work, but those associations and those circles that you run in really, really push you. I mean, in the DM family, when I'm with those guys, they elevate my standards. This is a mastermind I'm in that costs $50,000 a year to be in. And these are all high-level business owners and pushing themselves, growing. And when I'm around them, they're hitting at a different level. They're talking about different things. They dress differently. They talk differently. They think differently. Their relationships are different than the average 50-degree thermostat person. So increasing the associations is very critical. I blew off mentors. I blew off relationships for a long time. I didn't think they were all that important. I thought I could learn this stuff on my own. And guys, that was a mistake. That was a big mistake, and I would not recommend that, because about 6-7 years ago, I started heavily investing in relationships and mentors and learning from people, and it's been massive. Second point. So number one is association. Second point is thoughts, thought audits. If you haven't heard the episode, How You Can Solve Any Problem, one of my podcast episodes, go back and listen to that. Unlock Your Life, How You Can Solve Any Problem. And it talks about isolating these thoughts. Isolating self-sabotaging thoughts, untrue thoughts, fears, insecurities. And this can be, my identity is in my accomplishments. That's something that I can identify with. My identity is in my accomplishments. And if I don't succeed in my accomplishments, then I'm a loser. I'm a failure. My identity is in the things that I possess, right? My car, my house, my boat, my money in my bank account, my apartment complexes. That's like my identity, is the things that I possess. And so if I don't have those things, then I'm not worthy, right? See how dangerous that mindset is? Or my identity is wrapped up in what other people think about me. If I don't succeed to the level that they think I should be, if I don't make them happy, if I don't say the things that they want me to say on social media, if I dress a certain way or don't dress a certain way, or, maybe I'm posting on social media too much and they don't like it, or I'm doing things that they don't agree with. When you're living your life to please other people, then that is definitely lowering your thermostat. And I know that you maybe are thinking, well, I don't do that. I don't care what people think. And if you truly don't, then that's amazing. You're probably unique and it's going to serve you well. But at the same time, when I think about some of the things that stress me out the most, it's disappointing others, disappointing expectations, and not living up to the standards that I think that other people hold me to. And it's weird, but I'm just being vulnerable with you guys here. I'm being honest, how those are things that are definitely holding me back. So what I do with those thoughts, right? When I have that thought that, oh, my identity is tied to accomplishment, my identity is tied to my material possessions, my identity is tied to what other people think of me, I isolate that thought and I do a thought audit around it. I'm not going to get into that, but if you want to know more about thought auditing and how to change your thoughts and your emotions around circumstances, because we all have negative circumstances that hit us, then go back and listen to that episode. It's a good one. And then number 3 on turning up the thermostat, and I'm going to end on this one, is the ability to keep promises to yourself. Self-confidence is built through keeping promises to yourself. Raising your thermostat is built by keeping promises to yourself. How do you do that tangibly? Well, we think about how many times have you made a promise to your wife, your kid, your business partner, your boss, whoever. It's pretty easy to keep that promise. Hey, I need you to come in to work like an hour early on Wednesday because we got to go over this meeting. Can you make it? Yeah, I'll be there. And you're there, right? Unless you get in a car wreck or something, you're going to be there. You're going to keep, hey, can you pick up the kids after school for me? Yes, I will. Hey, Dad, will you play basketball with me after work? Yes, I will. And you do it. You keep those promises. For the most part, unless there's just crazy extenuating circumstances, you're keeping promises that you make to other people. And yet think about how easy it is to break a promise to yourself. Well, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to consistently do a podcast. I'm going to record it every week. That's a promise that I made to myself. And it's really hard to keep it sometimes. Some weeks I'm busy, and I'm not saying I keep it every single week, but I try to be consistent in keeping that promise to myself. I'm going to wake up early. Keep that promise to myself. I'm going to work out. Keeping that promise to myself. I am going to be kind and be loving to my kids and my wife and spend time and focus on those relationships. It's a promise that I want to keep to myself. And when we keep those promises, it notches up that internal thermostat a degree, because now we have self-confidence that what I say I'm going to do, I do. What I set out to do, I can do. I can achieve. And it starts with the things that we can control. So in the deal room, we break down these big goals that people have into actionable one-step action items per week. We have a deal sprint. And so if somebody says, I want to grow my investor base, I want to raise $1 million for a real estate deal. Well, okay, that's awesome, but it's not actionable. So what can you control? Because you can't control $1 million worth of commitments, right? $1 million of people giving you their money to invest in a deal. But you can control the steps it takes. So I can control that I'm going to write down everybody on my email list and phone book or whatever, or in my phone. I'm going to make a database. I'm going to put that database in an email CRM, and I'm going to start emailing these people once a week. I'm going to reach out to 10 of them per week, and I'm going to have 5 phone calls. I'm going to connect with 3 different syndication groups that are closing deals, and I'm going to get to know them so that when I have money, I have somebody to partner with that I trust and I know that is going to do a good job for my investors. That's the actionable, tangible things. And then when you keep the promise, right? You actually put the stuff in the CRM. You actually make the calls. You actually connect with the investors. You actually connect with the other syndication groups. You actually build these relationships. It builds self-confidence that, oh my gosh, I can do this. Oh my gosh, I set out to do something and I actually accomplished it. I kept a promise to myself. And it starts with the little things. It starts with the 360 degrees, like in all arenas. Like, I'm keeping my promises in my relationships. I'm keeping my promises in my health, in my food, in working out, in getting up early, in investing in myself, in journaling, in reading, right? That's why all these millionaires talk about this stuff. I mean, it's probably a broken record, morning routines and how they're doing this and this. It's because they are building the habits of keeping promises to themselves. So if we turn up that thermostat, the results follow. If we don't, we may get results here and there, positive results, negative results, but we're always going to trend right back to that thermostat level. So between the ears, the thermostat, that's what we focus on. That's why pretty much without exception, everyone's talking about mindset and mindset work and mental work and self-confidence and self-belief and identity, is because it's the only thing that's going to produce lasting results for you. So guys, I hope this message was meaningful, impactful. If it was, go over there and leave me a review on Apple, on iTunes. It helps the algorithm, helps other people find the show and unlock their life as well, and change. So if this show has meant anything to you, it means a lot to me. If you can share it with your friends, if you can write me a review, you can talk about it, repost it, whatever you want to do. I definitely pay attention to that, and it means something to me. So thank you for listening, and remember to unlock your life. Peace.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.